In this video, I will show you a game between two 1800s. A lot of mistakes has been made in this game that you can learn from. The game started with the move d4, and now black played the move d5. And now we have c4. This is called the Queen's Gambit. When black takes, white likes to play the move e4 to try to win the pawn back, or play knight c3, for example. And here, black can do whatever. He can take, he can play c6, he can play e6, he can play knight f6. Decided to play knight f6, and we have knight c3. Even though it's completely fine to get out with the bishop or play knight f3, knight c3, and now black plays the move c6, so solidifying the center, and now we have knight f3. Black played the move e6 to open up for the bishop to go on b4 to pin the knight to try to add some pressure here. It's very common at this level, at the 1800 level, to try to make this kind of moves to try to pin or try to win a pawn at least. Then we have the move e3. Now, if you want to play the move e3 in the Queen's Gambit, when you want to play this, well, the bishop will be very bad. The bishop cannot go here, the bishop cannot get out. So one of the moves is to try to play bishop g5 first, or bishop f4, then you play e3, because it's better to get the bishop out of the pawn chain, so that after you play the move e3, you will open up with the other bishop, and the other bishop will be at least developed here or here. So that's a slight mistake, but it's okay. Now black plays the move bishop to b4, pinning the knight. And now you can play bishop d3. Whenever he plays knight here, you can just take it so that it will not add a lot of pressure to this knight. But white played the move bishop to d2, and here black decided to take the knight. Now it's always better to have the bishops. Okay, never trade a bishop for a knight, especially in the opening phase, because you don't know what's going to happen in the middle game or in the end game. Is it going to be an open position, or is it going to be a closed position? If it's a closed position, the knights are better. But if it's going to be an open position, the bishops are really, really going to be strong. So trading the bishop at the beginning of the game, it is reckless, and mostly people don't know the value of the bishop, and they think that the bishop is the same as the knight. It is not. Bishop takes knight. Now bishop takes. Now white has an advantage of the bishop pair, especially if they ended up in a position where the bishops are open and very, very, very strong. Now black castles, and now white played the move bishop to d3, maybe trying to play queen c2, adding pressure to the pawn on h7. Now black decided to go knight e4, attacking the bishop, threatening to double up the pawns and also take away the bishop pair. Now white can take this they can take this knight, and after pawn takes, black has this double pawns. Of course, the knight will go back to attack, but then black is gonna play f5. Yes, this is okay for black and okay for white, but these double pawns are not good, and they are exploitable. And this one is a backward pawn, can only be defended by pieces. So also white has an advantage here, but white decided not to take and played queen c2. Now this move is a waste of time. Why? Because it is so clear. In your games, when you want to make threats, don't make a very, very easy and trackable threat. I mean, come on. This is very easy to see that the bishop takes, pawn takes, and white wants to take this. So white is aiming to win a pawn. So, and white knows that black is going to play the move f5 to defend. So this move is a completely waste of time. You just take. Just take right from the beginning before you allow him to play f5. Because if you play queen c2, and now he plays f5, and now you take, he will take with this pawn, open up this rook, right? So if you want to take anyway, take like this, and never let him open up his rook against your king, and now he's going to have his double pawns. So it was a waste of time to play queen c2, because it was really an obvious threat, and now black played the move f5, and bishop cannot take here, because after pawn takes, the knight needs to move, and the rook will be aiming at the f2 pawn. So white castle, and now knight d7 by black, and now pawn takes, and knight d2. Knight d2, he's just like, I really hate this knight and I want to move it away. So black took. Now here, it's generally a good idea to keep the battery if you have a battery. If you have a bishop and a queen battery like this, or a bishop and a battery queen like this, or queen here, rook here, battery like this, you should keep it. Why? Because it will be useful. I mean, if you take like this with the bishop, okay, and something happened, for example, and something happened like, I don't know, he played something else, you can see that this pawn is weak and the other pawn on h7 is weak, because if you try to play a move like g4, for example, and he cannot take or push because he's going to lose a pawn there, and this pawn will be very weak. That's why it is important to keep, if you have a battery, just keep the battery and don't remove it. But after black took, white took with the queen, and now removing this battery, so now the bishop and the queen are not looking at anything there. So yeah. Now black played the move knight f6, trying to put the knight on e4, and it's going to be a very, very annoying knight. So f3 is really important to stop the knight from going to e4, because imagine your queen being attacked, the bishop being attacked, and if you take, he's going to take with a pawn, open up his rook. That's why it's better to play f3. Now we have b6. And now rook f2. Here, the mistake that white made is playing rook f2. Even though it's a slight mistake, but rooks belongs on open files, on the c file. You can see whenever he moves the bishop, now it's going to be an open file. He can play a rook c1 and play a rook c2 and then rook c1 and doubling up on the c file and having control of the open file. Because in the middle game, it's all about piece activity. Okay, if your pieces are not that active, you're not going to be winning the game. So rook f2 is bad because it's not active. Rook c1 is more active to try to control the c file. But rook f2. Now we see the move a5. Now the idea behind this, that black is trying to play bishop to a6 and defended by the rook, so that he wants to trade the bishop. I don't know why he wants to trade the bishop. I mean, the bishop is bad. The bishop is not looking good here. Nothing is happening. Nothing. And this bishop is just useless. So I don't know why he would like to trade off the bishops, but anyway, white here plays the move rook to f1. Another huge mistake. Why? I mean, doubling up the rooks is a really smart move. It's a good move. But you double up the rooks on open file. These rooks are supposed to be here, controlling the open c file, right? Because you have to gain more control. Now you're controlling what? You're controlling a pawn. If the rooks were here, at least they are controlling all these squares, which was going to be much better for white. So the player who controls more squares of the board is much better. So rook f1 is a big mistake. Black went for his plan, bishop to a6, trying to trade off the bishops, and now here we see white wasting time. See, this is, do you remember the move queen c2, trying to, threaten to win a pawn, but it was really obvious a threat, so black played the move f5. The same thing happened here. Queen e2. Or maybe he's going to blunder something and he's going to blunder his bishop. Of course not. So what black wants, it's a really clear threat that he wants to take the bishop. He just wants to take the bishop. So just play rook fc1 because the bishop will be gone. You cannot move the bishop because you will lose your rook. That's why it was better for white to go rook c1, but he went queen e2, wasting time, wasting a move, an entire move. He could have played rook c1, and now black takes, queen takes, so you can see that it was just a waste of time. Now we have the move g6. Now it's really important to play rook c2, rook c1, trying to control the open file, or black was supposed to play rook c8, controlling open file himself. But g6 we see. Okay, now we see the move a3 by white. a3, yes, I understand. It's trying to go for the move b4. If pawn takes, the bishop will take. The bishop is defending the pawn and attacking the rook. It seems nice. And also open up for the rooks to go on the c file. But it's better to put the rooks on the open files first, so that when the game develops, you have more control over the board. It is much better. Now we see the move queen c7, and only when white saw that black played queen c7, now he decided to put the rook on the c file, just to attack the queen. Play this move not to attack pieces, but it shows that you have a great positional understanding, and you will get better a lot if you just started to put your pieces on active squares. The rook's on open files, the bishop's on open diagonals. Now, black decided to play the move rook c8. In case the bishop moved, white will lose the rook. So now, white played rook c1, wanting to move the bishop away to attack the queen. The queen moved, and now we see the move b4. If pawn takes, well, the bishop wants to take, attacking the rook, and it's going to be a series of trades, which is going to be, equal and maybe a draw. Here, black decided not to take and decided to push the pawn to a4. Now, white can play the move b5, and now you can see that this pawn is a little bit isolated. It's not easy to attack because the queen cannot really attack it, but it is weak, and this pawn is weak because they are not connected. And also the same thing with these two. So you can say that it's completely equal here. Now, black decided to play the move rook c4, trying to double up here to play rook c8 to add more attackers on this file. But white played the move bishop b4, defending the pawn, isolating the rook from the defense of the pawn, and attacking the rook, where black cannot take because he will lose the rook there. So now here, black played rook c8, and now here takes, 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 takes. Sorry. So now here just white won a pawn. That was a mistake. That was a mistake. Black was supposed to take here because if bishop takes, he's gonna win. He's gonna win the rook. So the best move for him is to actually just take here, and after rook takes, now he can move the rook. Maybe try to trade, and after some kind of a trade, we have this position. So black blundered. Black blundered here and played rook here, and he did not think about what's gonna happen here. There are 3 attackers and only 2 defenders, so it's really obvious that black is going to lose a pawn, and black right now has 8 minutes and 20 seconds. So he just blitz out this move thinking it's going to be good, but he just blundered a pawn in the process. And black is not supposed to take because after queen takes, the queen is active, the queen is pinning the pawn, and white is up a pawn. So it's not good for black. That's why after takes, he decided to play knight to d5, attacking the bishop. Now, white decided to take the rook, queen takes, and here, a really important positional move is supposed to be played, which is bishop to d2. Now you might say, why is it really important? Because, well, white here was scared. White was scared of the move queen c1 check. He was like, oh my god, I'm gonna lose, even though it doesn't do much. The king can go here, and the pawn will be defended by the queen and by the king. So it's not a problem to see the queen c1 check. And bishop to d2 actually stops this check and also stops black from taking the bishop. So, but white went here, king f2. King f2 is a really big mistake. You might say, why is a mistake? I mean, white is up a pawn. Well, black can take the bishop, and after pawn takes, you can see that this pawn, it is really strong, especially after like a move like queen c1, and the pawn will be pushed and another queen will be made. So now black has a significant advantage here, because I mean, come on, who can stop this pawn? I mean, unless you want to put the queen there for the forever, and it's going to be very bad. So white was scared of queen c1 check, so he decided to go king f2. After this, black was supposed to take, and after it takes, he can put the queen there, or he can get the queen here to try to push the pawn to make another queen, and it's going to be very harsh for white. But black decided to go queen c1. I don't know why queen c1. This pawn is defended twice. Here he can still take, and after it takes, he will push the pawn. So now the bishop needs to move. Maybe bishop here, bishop d2, because this pawn is defended by the queen. So yeah, bishop d2 is fine, attacking the queen. That was the best move, trying to attack the queen and also running away from this, because after pawn takes, the pawn will be pushed and another queen will be made. Or the bishop moves here, anywhere, just that the bishop needs to move. But he went queen d2, trying to get a queen trade. Now even if black takes and bishop takes, black can play knight c7, attacking this pawn. And there's no way for white to defend the pawn. And after that, he's going to lose the other pawn on a3, so he needs to play a move like this. It might end up in a draw, we don't know, but it's not good for white. White lost his advantage. So, because he needed to play bishop d2. He played queen d2, and now black decided not to take, and he went queen c4, attacking this pawn. And now here, he's not also attacking the pawn, he's also threatening to play knight takes, and after queen takes, for example, let's say, well, white played the move e4, so after knight takes, if queen takes, it's actually a horrendous move, because after queen takes, pawn takes, you can see that this pawn is really close from promoting, and nothing can stop it. So white will be losing if that's happened. And this is exactly what happened. After the move e4, which was a big mistake, white was supposed to move the bishop. Not here, because that's just a free piece. The bishop to d6. Bishop to d6 was the best. Black cannot attack it, and the bishop is defending the pawn, and all good. That was what's supposed to happen. But white played the move e4, even though he has 5 minutes on the clock, or 6 minutes, sorry. Now after the move e4, he's like telling him, come on, just take the bishop. And after takes, pawn takes, this is a, like, if he takes with the queen, that's losing, 100% losing. Because he can just take the queen, and after pawn takes, he will make a queen. That's why it is much slower to take with the pawn, so white might delay the checkmate at some point. Here, what black was supposed to do, black was greedy, was like, oh my god, there's a free pawn, so let me just take it before it's too late. Well, it's never too late, because this queen is overloaded. It's defending the pawn on d4, defending the pawn on b4, and there's no way for the queen to defend the pawn on b4. Sorry, on b5. So no need. Just push the pawn. Just push the pawn. If white push, for example, push the pawn. Now you can see that it's very significant threat right now. And also, if the queen tried to move, it will be very easy to make a queen, and black is completely winning this. I don't know why after pawn takes, black did not push the pawn, because whenever you have a passer, push it, especially if it's protected. I mean, here it's not attacked, and on a2 it will be protected, so these two moves are supposed to be played without even thinking. But black decided, you know what, I'm just going to take a pawn, free pawn, let me just take it. And a really important advice for you when you're playing your games, don't focus on material, okay? Yes, white now is up a pawn, and black has the opportunity to gain that pawn back, but you have to be proactive, you have to be more focused in your games, you have to be focusing on the important thing. The important thing is to win the game, and the best way to win the game is to get another queen. So this was the important thing to do, not taking this pawn. But anyway, black decided to take the pawn on b5, and white is trying to run for his life, trying to stop the pawn on a4, even though it's really hard. Now, black wasted another move by playing queen c4, maybe trying to block the king from getting here to defend against his pawn. Even though it was completely fine to go a3 and then get the queen there, and then push, push, and make a queen. So for example, this move, queen d1, king d1, queen check, the king moves, and this, and it's lights out. White is completely losing. But anyway, after king e1, queen c4, trying to stop the king from getting to the c file to defend against the pawn, and now white pushed the pawn to d5. Again, black has this move a3. Even if white takes here, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Yes, he's opened up some lines here what black can take, and after some kind of checks, the black can run away, and the pawn will be pushed, and then a queen will be made. But black decided to take, and obviously forcing a queen straight is horrendous, because white is not in time to stop black from making a queen, so white cannot force a queen straight here. He took with a pawn, and then the king started moving. Again, another mistake, not focusing on the important thing. Really, you're just scared of this pawn, even though it's not so scary. You have a more scary pawn. You have this pawn only 3 squares away from from queening, and you have the first move, and it's going to be a check. So this pawn is definitely stronger than this one on d5, but black was scared, trying to stop the pawn. Now white pushed the pawn again, and now black played the move king e8. Now we have queen e3 check. And here black played the move king to d7. King to d7, even though now the material is equal, but white is completely winning. After black was completely winning, only if he pushed the pawn to make another queen. And white is winning because of the move queen e7 check. Defended. If the king went back, that's check. He moves somewhere. That's another check. And yeah, that's another check. I mean, two queens. This is lights out for black. And if black went here, there's going to be a check. Black goes there, and white can take now. After king takes, pawn push, make a queen, try to make a queen, and we don't go here. It is slow. You just give a check. Black takes the pawn, and now we can win this pawn, and white is completely winning. That's what white had, but white missed it and played queen takes b6. Another time, another move trying to be, only caring about material advantage. If I'm up a pawn, I'm completely winning. No. You had this check, which is really strong, and after the king moves, you can either push the pawn or trade the queens, which is really strong, and the pawn will be promoting to another queen. So this was the winning move, queen e7 check. White had time. White had 4 minutes on the clock, but decided to go for material because, you know, we're all, caring about material, because if we have a material advantage over our opponents, we think that we are winning. No, you can be up 4 points, 5 points. Actually, I just played a game, okay, between against like a two, almost 2100, and I won the game. He was up a full rook, I just completely blundered my rook, and I went there for the attack. So it doesn't matter. You can have a big material advantage, and you might be losing. So don't care about material only. Queen takes pawn on b6, and now check here, king f2, another check, and what white was supposed to go, of course not king g1, that's just a blunder of checkmate, was supposed to go king f1, and it is a draw. Check, here, check, here, check, it's just going to be a lot of checks, and it's going to be a draw. But after this check on d2, white blundered and played king g3. Pause the video and try to find the winning move for black here. Okay. No, it is not playing f4 check. It is not pushing the pawn on a3. It is queen takes d6 check, forcing a queen trade. After queen takes, king takes. The king is so far away from stopping the pawn from pushing. Now, white trying to do something, but he pushed, and after this, black took the pawn, and after this, white resigned. White was winning, and actually black was winning at the beginning when he had this pawn, but he did not push it because he was not focusing on the important thing. He was only focusing on material and winning the pawn. And then white had an advantage, and he just had some checks, and he was completely winning, but then he also only cared about material and only cared about material advantage, and he lost this game due to this huge blunder, which is going to be forcing a queen trade, and now this pawn is unstoppable. So never care about the material in your games. You can be up material, a lot of material, and you will be losing the game. It doesn't really matter. What matters, who has a good advantage. Like, let's say right now that white has a knight here, or has a bishop, and another bishop, and a knight, for example. A lot of pieces, right? So like 6, and here 9 points of material plus. This pawn is unstoppable, right? So it doesn't matter to have a lot of advantage, to have a lot of material, as long as the position is for your opponent, it's more advantageous for your opponent. It is going to be, the game is going to be won by your opponent. So always focus on the position, not on material. Thank you so much for watching. See you in another video.